Well, after years of rumors, speculation, and leaks, the PS5 Pro was officially revealed in a technical presentation by PlayStation's Mark Cerny, a brilliant, soft-spoken man who manages to constantly have the energy of the scientist nobody believes at the beginning of a natural disaster movie. Mark has a knack, and I promise that's the first and last knack joke I'll make today, hopefully, for explaining detailed and sophisticated advancements in console hardware in a way that the average simpleton who just wants to play good-looking games on their TV can understand. After all, since the dawn of video games, one of the primary needs of the average consumer, outside of the far more important question of, is it fun, has been, does it look cool? Well, trying to pitch the technical abilities of a super powerful console using side-by-side footage presented in a live-streamed YouTube video most people watch on their 5-year-old phones obviously has its own set of challenges, since you can't really tell the difference. But the biggest hurdle to get people to buy a PS5 Pro isn't just convincing them to head down to their local Best Buy so they can see all the glorious new dirt textures being added to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, a slightly prettier version of a game most of us played in 2020. No, it's the price. And when it comes to the PS5 Pro, it's a huge one. That's because the PlayStation 5 Pro, the newest and most high-end model in the PlayStation console family, costs $700 in the US, which is over $900 in the UK, over $1,000 in Canada. It's also adorably all digital, meaning it doesn't come with a disc drive. If you own or plan on owning and playing your PS5 games off of a disc, you'll have to buy a PS5 disc drive to do it. And that'll be an additional $80. Also, it doesn't come with a vertical stand. I don't need one of those, but that'll run you an extra $30 in case you want your PS5 to not look like it's fallen and can't get up.
I've fallen. And I can't get up!
All in all, it's probably the most sticker shock I felt about a console price reveal since the PS3 was announced in 2006 to be $599 US, a number that people scoffed at so hard Sony was forced to drop the price by $100 months later. The PS3 price reveal's energy is back, baby. They'll remake anything these days. The PS5 Pro is for the die-hard PlayStation fans out there who want their games to look as good as possible, but also don't want to deal with the flexibility, hassle, or price that comes with building or buying a high-end gaming PC. See, on the PC gaming side of things, gamers are used to a much more do-it-yourself, modular approach, swapping out graphics cards, RAM, GPUs, and the endless pursuit of number go up. There's a tangible reward to throwing money into a large case full of fans and LED lights, and there's an entire community built around helping each other out to do so. Game developers and hardware companies like Nvidia and AMD certainly do their part, but it's largely the user mod scene that keeps old games looking new years and years later after the companies that made them have moved on. If you truly care about having access to the largest library of video games ever made and the endlessly scalable experience of playing the best looking version of those games that you ever could, you pretty much need to own a gaming PC. I don't make the rules. Many modern PlayStation 5 games seem to keep making their way to PC these days anyway, like Helldivers 2 the day it launched, or God of War Ragnarok just 2 years after it came to PS5, so it seems PlayStation doesn't mind if you have a gaming PC either. But with all their infinite power, custom-built texture packs, endless emulation, and ray tracing support for an obtuse, canceled Japanese rhythm arcade game from 1987 that no one knows the name of, there's one thing that PC gamers won't have for a long time, or at least won't have for a while after console gamers have it, and that's Grand Theft Auto 6. GTA 6 is going to be a generation-defining game release, the likes of which we've never seen. It will be one of the biggest and most lucrative media events in modern human history, a sequel to one of the most ridiculously best-selling games of all time, the first truly huge system seller of the PS5 and Xbox Series X generation, and the most excited anyone has ever been about Florida. And it isn't launching day one on PC. It's just not. That means if you're excited to play GTA 6 when it drops, and considering the reveal trailer has nearly 210 million views in 9 months, I think a few of you are, you're gonna need a current gen Xbox or PlayStation. And that's where things get interesting. See, Rockstar isn't playing around with GTA 6. It's allegedly been in development for over a decade. It's clearly shaping up to be the most impressively detailed and sophisticated open-world crime game ever made. After all, this is from the same studio that designed the horse testicles to shrink when it gets cold outside in their last huge open-world game, Red Dead Redemption 2.
What the hell are you doing?
Spared no expense. See, Red Dead Redemption 2 launched a year after the mid-generation Xbox and PS4 hardware refreshes, the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, and benefited well from their improved power and resolution. If the timing lines up again, we might see a similar pattern with GTA 6, the PS5 Pro, and maybe the yet-to-be-revealed more powerful Xbox. Now, back to that price though, since again, it's a big one, $700 plus taxes, disk drive, a stand, $70 games, controller, and TV good enough to take advantage of it all, is absolutely nothing to scoff at. Although it does come with a controller, maybe you want to have a friend over. Although again, building a comparable gaming PC will run you significantly more than $700. But GTA 6 is one game, a game that is still just one trailer from 9 months ago. So Sony needed to bring out a couple of other games to convince you to buy their new PS5 Pro, and boy, did they not. We saw games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor, a game that's coming to PS4 this month, Hogwarts Legacy, a game you can play on Nintendo Switch. There was a lot of victory lapping on marginal improvements for games that are already immensely popular on PlayStation and elsewhere, but there was no killer, brand new, first-party title from Sony for the PS5 Pro launch to really show how much ass this thing can kick. Games sell consoles, but Sony's kind of hoping that the games they already sold you are enough to carry that big price this time around. Hilariously enough, Sony's biggest game this fall after the total collapse and subsequent total removal of Concord, their multi-million-dollar failed games as a service game, is Astrobot, a cute hop-and-bop platforming game starring a lovely little robot mascot and its merry gang of PlayStation tie-in friends. Astrobot is one of the best reviewed games of 2024, one of my favorite games of the generation, and I'll be honest, at absolutely no point while playing it did I say, man, I really wish this game was running on more powerful hardware because there just aren't enough sprinkles on the floor in this ice cream level. I demand more. It's a lovely game from a small team made on a smaller budget in just a few years, and people adore it because it's an absolute blast. It's gorgeous looking for sure, but visuals aren't why people are playing this game. Sony insists that somewhere between 40 and 50 games will see PS5 Pro improvements when the console launches on November 7th, with more to come, but the games they showed off during its reveal were a smattering of things you probably played already, mixed with improvements you probably never even thought needed improving, like the crowd sizes in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, or the trees in Spider-Man 2. You remember the trees, right? When I think of Spider-Man 2, Venom, and the lizard in the great open world city of New York. You know what immediately springs to my mind first? Not the f***ing trees. Now, wondering what people need when describing a fun and frivolous hobby that people engage with in their spare time is meaningless. Some folks are content playing their games however and wherever they have access to them without worrying about or ever even thinking about maximizing the graphics, resolution, or frame rate in them. And neither side is wrong, but one definitely speaks with their wallets louder than the other. Matt Piscatella, an executive director at Circana, a platform that tracks consumer sales data and trends across the games industry and more, revealed the purchasing stats behind the PlayStation 4 Pro, Sony's last foray into a mid-generation hardware revision, and he stated that in the US, the PS4 Pro accounted for 13% of the PS4's total lifetime sales, as well as 15% of dollars, and surmised that the PS4 Pro succeeded at driving the incremental sales to the super enthusiast and not the mass base, aka, hardcore PlayStation users, not just a casual dude down the street who's like, gotta play this slightly better looking version of this game. Now, we won't know for a long time if the PS5 Pro will hit similar percentages, but my gut says the high price will turn people off for a while. On IGN, we're currently running a poll about interest in the PS5 Pro that over 29,000 video game obsessed readers have voted in, and as of now, roughly 9% of users say they'll buy a PS5 Pro, and a whopping 70% say it's too expensive. When Sony released the PlayStation 4 Pro, a mid-generation hardware refresh that promised to double the power of the PS4 and bring with it better frame rates, HDR, and most importantly, 4K resolution in supported games, rather than the 1080p that base PS4 owners were stuck with, things were a little bit different. At the time, 4K TVs were all the rage and becoming the new standard, and Sony illustrated this point with a graphic on their official website that implied you wouldn't be able to see past a horse's ass if you didn't upgrade your console. Hey, I really didn't plan on talking about horse private parts so much in this video, by the way. Actually, are they even private parts if they just have them out there all the time? It's not like a horse wears pants. Anyway, by then, the PS4, which launched at $400, had dropped to $300, making the new and improved PS4 Pro's $400 launch price seem not totally preposterous. Used game stores and trade-in deals at big box retailers were significantly more common than they are now, making the process of getting rid of your old console to get the new one fairly painless and also helping to reduce the sticker shock. I distinctly remember trading in my launch PS4 and getting a PS4 Pro for under $200 total. As of right this second, GameStop will give you $350 for your launch disk drive model of the PS5, meaning you'll still have to drop another $350 plus the cost of a disk drive if you want the PS5 Pro. That's a huge ask for the average cash-strapped consumer. It might be an easier pill to swallow when GTA 6 is released, or when we finally find out more about upcoming first-party PlayStation games like Wolverine, or Sucker Punch's hopeful follow-up to 2020's Ghost of Tsushima, but right now, 3 games with no release dates versus a console with a very high price, albeit with a library of older titles getting some new improvements, is not really the best sell. High prices seem to be the norm with Sony these days. This is the same company that's done price increases on the PS5 since launch in most regions around the world, and recently announced the prices of their controllers were going up by $5. A pretty stark contrast to 2017 when the PS4 Pro launched against an already price-dropped PS4. Maybe that's because things seem worse for everyone, everywhere money-wise right now, at least since the pandemic. Everything everywhere is more expensive, seemingly harder to produce for every company, and Sony has decided to pass the problem on to the consumers. Lucky us. At the same time, rapidly spiraling out of control game development costs and the length of time it takes to actually make a big graphically stunning AAA game these days has created a different but parallel problem. The PS5, and Xbox for that matter, simply don't have a huge catalog of big exclusive games that you just have to buy a next-gen console to play, because you can't play them anywhere else. Most of Sony's own biggest games are either also available on PC or still receive PS4 ports. Xbox is putting their games everywhere, which weirdly, 4 years into this generation, PS4 is still a console where half of the players are still playing their games. Now, none of this truly matters considering the best-selling and most played games on both the current gen and last-gen consoles are either multi-platform games like Madden and Call of Duty, and of course GTA, or endless games as a service like Fortnite and Apex Legends, and of course GTA Online. That means truly exclusive games might not matter as much as they used to, but if roughly half of all PlayStation users are still playing on PS4, then that begs the bigger question, why haven't they come to PS5 yet? And will a $700 PS5 Pro finally be the thing that gets them to do it? Because right now, it doesn't really seem like it. Gaming is more popular than ever before, but that's not necessarily because of high-end consoles. Through mobile, laptops, and tablets that people already use for work or school, or a Nintendo Switch console, which are regularly bundled with a game or two for half the price of a PS5 Pro, or last-gen consoles that many just don't see the need to move on from, people are playing video games however they can access them. They just want to have fun in their downtime without breaking the bank, and then of course there's the serious hardcore aficionados who want their games to look incredible on their huge OLED TVs and high-end gaming monitors, and there will always be a place for people like that, myself included, but it's hard to see if we're a big enough audience to justify making and selling a $700 PS5 Pro 4 years after buying a PS5 during a console generation that, let's be honest, hasn't really found its footing yet. But if there's one thing that might bring us all together, or tear us apart so we can do crime in the street and run over pedestrians and stuff, it's Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that still doesn't have a release date and definitely won't be there when the PS5 Pro launches this November. Until then, we'll have to ask ourselves what we're willing to pay to see the forest from the trees. For more on PlayStation and video games in general, keep watching IGN on any and every device you own that supports it, regardless of frame rate, resolution, or how many lumbaxes it can render in a crowd at once. Thanks for watching.